We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and let's get to know Jeannine Lisitski, who's the CEO of Mental Health Partnerships. Jeannine, what is Mental Health Partnerships? What are you guys doing?
Mental Health Partnerships now serves 5,000 people a year to support folks with mental health issues to live in the community. But we started as the advocacy organization that fought for deinstitutionalization of mental institutions in Pennsylvania.
Excellent. Where are you from? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from Ocean City, New Jersey. I used to be the youngest until 15 years later, and then I was the middle.
So you mentioned when we were talking earlier in the green room, you had a rather interesting childhood. Could you give us a synopsis of that, please?
Sure. I had a mom who had serious mental health issues, so there was a lot of chaos in our life, and we landed in a Hare Krishna ashram for I think about a year, where our dad came to get us from, and then we moved with him. But we moved around a lot as kids, so we didn't really have continuity with our schooling.
Mm-hmm. How young were you when your dad came to get you from the ashram?
I was about 7 years old or 8 years old.
Didn't you also mention that you actually left school at the age of 15?
I did. And that, just wanting to take control of my life. It continued to be a chaotic childhood. And so at 15, I quit school and I started hair school.
Gotcha. Terry, can you give me a hand, please?
Yeah, Jeannine, I want to zero in on that a little bit more. What did you see for yourself when you left school at 15?
Just having safety and control over the trajectory of my life. And so, that's what I wanted to do, and I did it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. James, want to give me a hand, please?
And so you left school, you dropped out, you said you went to hair school, and then you were cutting people's hair when you were around 16 years old. I was wondering, people affectionately refer to their hairdresser as their therapist. Were you a 16-year-old therapist listening to people's problems back then?
Yes, I really was. And a lot of my customers said they love what I did because I listened carefully to what they wanted. But, I had a lot of repeats, and they built strong relationships with me.
How important was that lesson of listening to you in terms of how it refers to both helping you with, I guess, your patient, the people you help, as well as the way you lead your organization?
Yes, listening is key, especially because we're working in complex issues in our culture that can't be easily solved. So I listen everywhere I go, and I fold that into innovation.
Matthew?
Jeannine, you described before a little bit of a childhood with a lot of chaos in it. Could you tell me about the connection between that chaos from your early childhood and what I think is a life of service? Like, how do those fit together?
I had a heart for people who were suffering, and I also wanted to help empower people to take control of their life, even if it was difficult, even if they did struggle. And so that was really the through line to a career of serving in the nonprofit industry.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. How about Caleb? What kind of questions you got?
Jeannine, I'm just curious. How young were you when you wanted to help somebody, or when you did help someone for the first time? Can you think back to seeing somebody in suffering and there's something you did just to brighten up their day a little bit?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I didn't even think about it, but people would come back and tell me, hey, when you were doing hair, I was down on my luck and you bought this for me, or you did this for me. So I think it was there all along. But what I remember is finally I went to law school, believe it or not, after I got my bachelor degree, just for one semester. And I was volunteering as a rape crisis counselor in New Jersey. And at that point, I realized I didn't want to be in law. I wanted to be closer to helping people directly.
And not only just helping people yourself, but I understand you have a lot of liaisons out in the community. How did those experiences growing up allow you to teach these other people to be able to be empathetic and help all these in need people in the community?
Just really the importance of listening to what people need and then being there to deliver that. and also learning. Again, we are in a really complex space of solving challenging issues. So all of our team needs to be able to learn from the people they serve and put that back into how do we change now to meet the need.
Harrison?
Yeah, Jeannine, so it's extremely impressive that you're able to go from a high school dropout to putting yourself through college to earning a PhD. What part of that drive do you try to pass along to your team today?
Just not to think you can't do something. If something is hard, don't look at what you can't do. Look at what you can. What steps can you take today? There's always something we can do. And I think that's how I've been able to lead, overcoming things that people said were impossible.
Matthew?
Jeannine, so much of what you do is about empowering people to have the life that they deserve. Who's the first person who empowered you?
It was my grandmother. And it was really just the simple act of having a safe space to go to and being listened to. She would sit down and she knew she couldn't change everything about my life, but she would say, "Tell me what's going on." And she would just sit and listen.
Wow. Sounds like that's who you are nowadays, isn't it?
It took a long time to get there. I remember some of my first leadership roles and really doing things totally wrong. But over time, that's the through line of learning that lesson about, listening and empowering and having people be part of the solutions.
And you mentioned, so you came from rather difficult, a quicksand, disruptive, chaotic background. It sounds to me like you've really learned it's one step at a time. How'd you learn that? How'd you get that?
I think it was just about figuring out how I could move forward. What could I do in that moment? And I also was always thinking about how can I restructure this environment to be more facilitative of, thriving. And so I took that, even in my first jobs at direct service, I'd be reorganizing everything, creating systems that were more efficient, and even it wasn't my job, but I did it because I was good at it.
Terry.
Yeah, Jeannine, listen to your story, right? I just feel the authenticity of your life experience is such a benefit in what you do, but obviously not everyone who is on your team has that authentic experience, right? Not everybody who works there has gone through the difficulties that you have in life. So do you think it is more important to try to solve the problem for the client or listen to the client?
Definitely listen, because the client has the answers there. And our job is to facilitate, to help with resources. And actually, in our organization, half or more of the people who work here have lived experience with mental health issues. So it really is led by people with lived experience.
Jeannine, how important in your job as the CEO of Mental Health Partnerships, how important is your intuition?
Incredibly important, because I'm the only one who sees the big picture and all the puzzle pieces. And so that I have unique information, even though I communicate a lot. So I need to be able to use that to take the right course of action. And a lot of that is really based on high ethics. So even when it may not be in the best interest, I will choose another path.
So as opposed to doing things the same way, your nature is always to try to find the better way. And it's also to find the better way in a selfless manner. It's really what's best for the organization, what's best for your patients and for your clients. Am I reading that correctly?
You are. Yeah, you're right on target there. I mean, even what I do in my free time is learning more and figuring out how we can have a bigger impact. It's my life mission. It feels very aligned with who I am as a person and what's important to me.
What's your life's mission?
To work to reduce suffering in our world, and especially oppression, inequities, people not being listened to or cared for.
Yeah, you really mean it. What's the website address for Mental Health Partnerships?
It's mhphope.org. and that's because we build hope together.
We've been speaking with Jeannine Lisitski, who is the CEO of Mental Health Partnerships here on Executive Leaders Radio.